Andrelton Simmons is one of the newest Chicago Cubs. What? No Carlos Correa now? We'll discuss all this and more on a brand new Locked On Cubs. Happy Tuesday.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you and welcome on in. I am your host, Andrew Bellison. This is indeed Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Wonderful to be with you here on a beautiful Tuesday morning. Real quick, I want to thank you for making Locked On Cubs your first listen each and every morning. It means the world to me, especially throughout that whole lockout. Man, I took over this show. MLB locks things out, and you guys were just so supportive. I cannot thank you enough. The most heartfelt thank you for the support through the lockout. Now we got baseball, we got free agent frenzy, we got spring training, regular season's right around the corner. Now we got some good stuff to talk about. So thank you for sticking with us. Locked On fam, we love you. Download us. We're free and available wherever you get your favorite cast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We'd love to have you. Great content there if you want to see us, see me, as well as listen to me ramble every morning as well. Social media, had a blast talking to some fans over the weekend on social, at Locked On Cubs, at Chicago Cubs PA. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Tons of good post-lockout stuff to get to today. Good Cubs nuggets to share and discuss. Mike Napoli news, really cool piece of the new CBA that there's a good chance you haven't heard about. Want to talk about that. With the free agent frenzy underway, I've got two under the radar names that Cubs should consider for 2022 here in the next couple days. But first, over the weekend, they welcomed Andrelton Simmons to the ball club, the newest shortstop on the Cubs roster. I'm going to tell you why this is a big deal, and you need to open your minds because I've had so much backlash over the weekend on why this is no good. So you likely heard over the weekend, Andrelton Simmons, kind of a defensive guru, we'll call him, signed free agent shortstop, 1 year, $4 million deal plus incentives. Known more for his glove than his stick. Want the in-depth defensive numbers on how good he really is. And I tweeted out a little highlight of him at shortstop and his command of the infield on a cutoff throw over the weekend. Check that out at Chicago Cubs PA. That's a lot of fun to watch him command the infield from the shortstop position. But you want to see how good the numbers really are for him with the leather. One of the best defensive players of all time. He had some ankle injuries that led to a little bit of a mediocre season of glove work in 2022. But last year with the Twins looked much more like his old self. Plus 16 outs above average, plus 15 defensive runs saved, over 1,091 and 2/3 innings at shortstop last year. So really, really good defensive season for the Minnesota Twins at the shortstop position for Andrelton Simmons in 2021. Okay, I get it. You're a little PO'd, right? All we talked about, all lockout, was Carlos Correa, new Cubs shortstop. Carlos Correa, new Cubs shortstop. Carlos Correa, new Cubs shortstop. What do they do when free agency starts and the lockout's lifted? They sign Andrelton Simmons, not Carlos Correa. Here's what we were told over the weekend. Because they brought in Simmons, it does not mean that they are out on the Correa sweepstakes. As a matter of fact, have you heard what they've been discussing lately? Correa might go for a super short-term deal, play the year, and then cash in mega monster buku bucks next year on a huge, huge deal. I can't see that happening, but I saw that reported somewhere. The $4 million a year that the Cubs gave Simmons, I hate to say it because there's a lot of us that would gladly sign up for a $4 million paycheck, is chump change in Major League Baseball. Let's be honest. The money these guys make, and rightfully so, they have a talent that we don't have, is through the roof. So $4 million, likely not starters' money. If no Correa moving forward, which that's not out of the picture yet, what does this mean for the Cubs infield as it stands right now? This is why I love this move, and this is why you should too. I'm tired of hearing He can't hit. Simmons is a 220 hitter. He's no good at the plate. We need power. We need a strong defense up the middle first and foremost. This move already, without bringing in anyone else, allows David Ross to juggle Nick Madrigal and or Patrick Wisdom in and out of the lineup as the situation warrants, as well as the DH spot, because we know that's coming into play now in the National League. So for that, for now, also available for the Cubs to work with in 2022 and beyond. I'm not saying that Simmons is going to plug in as your designated hitter, but you could have Madrigal and Wisdom take some turns in the DH role, in which case you'd have a Horner and a Simmons together in the infield at one time, potentially. Madrigal's health has been a bit of a question mark. He underwent season-ending hamstring surgery last summer. The reports from January, however, indicated that the infielder was making good progress in his recovery. How about Nico Horner, the incumbent shortstop, we'll call him? He's been penciled in as the starting shortstop, and we've talked a lot about this on Locked On Cubs. You should like this. Correa or no Correa. Don't try to steer me another way. Two contact offensive guys with Horner and Madrigal up the middle in an otherwise strikeout-laden offense. You have to like that. Throwing Simmons into the mix, who is a phenomenal gloveman up the middle, is so important for this team. Horner also, injuries have been an issue. Want to make sure that you don't burn him out or wear him down. With Simmons now in the fold, you can continue to experiment with Horner as a multi-position player as well. This is something that he worked on over the offseason. What's the bottom line? It gives Ross options off the bench, and especially in that infield, along with some very much needed defensive depth. Why should you like this signing? Forget about the 220 bat. Forget it, okay? For me, it's one reason and one reason only, and it's glove work up the middle. I have been surprised to see so many people chat with me on social media, which I love, by the way, so don't stop. Please keep coming at me. I love talking baseball with you guys, Cubs ball, NL Central, whatever. But about their unhappiness with this Andrelton Simmons deal. Why? Are you kidding me? I understand he doesn't hit the ball like Carlos Correa. As a matter of fact, and I'll paint the unrosy offensive picture. 250 average, 302 on base, 323 slugging slash line for his last 1,002 plate appearances since the start of 2019. So, yes, not pretty at the plate. Grab a little sip of Java. Cheers. Happy Tuesday. However, I have preached two very important characteristics of winning ball clubs here on Locked On Cubs for the last several months. Depth, which we just hit on, and defense up the middle, especially with this staff the Chicago Cubs have. They're ground ball machines. Stroman, Hendricks, Miley, ground ball, ground ball, ground ball. Stroman last year alone had nearly 58% of his outs on the ground. You needed to strengthen your defense up the middle, and they did. Carter Hawkins knew it. Jed Hoyer knew it. Andrelton Simmons is the perfect gloveman at the shortstop position to throw in the fold with Madrigal and Horner to shore up that D up the middle. You cannot fail to realize this, Cubs fans. Don't crap on this move. Trust me, it will pay big dividends. And I also don't think the Cubs are done spending. Like I said, it does not mean they're out on Correa. It does not mean they're out on a left-handed power outfield bat. It does not mean they're out on another pitcher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As Tommy Hotovy, Cubs pitching coach, says about the Simmons signing, quote, love it. Over the years, we've just had more contact-oriented guys, meaning on the mound. So having some solidity around the infield is always going to be beneficial to us. Tommy, thank you. Well said. Couldn't agree with you more. How about two more under-the-radar signings the Cubs should make here in the next couple of days to bolster their roster for 2022? We'll introduce you to those gentlemen in a moment. Before we do, it's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news all season long. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games as well. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Who should the Cubs sign from the market next? I'll tell you in a moment. This is Locked On Cubs. Welcome back in, everybody. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. This is indeed Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every morning, especially during the lockout when the news was slim and the content might not have been what you wanted. You supported us, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Locked On MLB Prospects, another Locked On Podcast Network show. Host Lindsey Crosby, Prospect Encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the Major League Baseball stars of tomorrow, like some of the studs in the Cubs organization, like Brennan Davis. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast, so check out MLB Prospects, Locked On's version as well. I think you will like it. So, Andrelton Simmons is in. Jesse Chavez, old friend, signed as well for some bullpen help. That was over the weekend as well. I don't think the Cubs are done spending money in the free agent market. As a matter of fact, Jed Hoyer alluded to that here yesterday morning, said there will be more action yet to come. And we knew it was going to be very condensed and maybe a little hectic given the way that the season unfolded with the lockout. Heard reports that the Simmons deal, as I mentioned in the first segment, does not mean that they're out of the Correa sweepstakes. But he would obviously be considered a top-tier guy. Freddie Freeman and him, probably the top two guys left on the market, you could argue, right? What about a couple under-the-radar names that I think the Cubs should target? I have two for you, happen to be both on the pitching side. These are both intriguing, potentially regardless. However, especially with the loss of Cody Hoyer to Tommy John surgery for the year, which we're going to touch on later in the show as well. Best wishes to you, Cody. Get well soon. Heal up quick. We can't wait to see you back on the hill here in no time. So, two players. Cubs need to go out and sign under-the-radar guys, team-friendly, short-term deals. Number one, Michael Pineda, right-handed pitcher, starting pitcher, spent the entirety of his career in the American League. And maybe you're scratching your noodle a little bit saying, what is this? Bellison, you out of your mind? He was limited injury-wise in 2021. We know this, but he performed well. 3.62 ERA through almost 110 innings. So good production in the innings that he was able to throw. Bad news on Pineda. Plummeted into the bottom 5% in average exit velocity and hard hit percentage last year. So having a good defense behind him is key, which is something the Cubs are improving on, a la the Andrelton Simmons move. Stick with me here, Cubs fans. Trust me, I won't steer you down a dark alley. But he was in the 96th percentile. So let's go other side, glass half full now, in both chase rate and walk percentage. So he doesn't hurt himself often. And guys who don't walk batters in any ballpark, obviously super important. But when you're not hurting yourself at Wrigley Field, especially with the conditions and the wind and this and that even it bodes even better for guys. So Pineda in that camp, which is really good news. Why Pineda? Well, we await to see how the 4 and 5 starter slots in David Ross's rotation are going to look. After we see that, we will then know how the long/middle roles in the bullpen shape up. Adding a veteran arm like this that has had success last year again in the American League to the Cubs depth pool on a team-friendly short-term deal surely wouldn't be a bad thing. And like I said, he's also spent the entirety of his career in the American League. Lack of familiarity by National League hitters could bode well for him, especially first couple run-throughs. So it's an intriguing possibility on a deal that wouldn't kill the books, which, for me, raises some eyebrows in a good way. We do know this, too, about, speaking of the back half of that Cubs rotation, we found out yesterday that Adbert Alzolay, who was strongly considered to be potentially that fifth, if not fourth starter, has some right shoulder tightness here in camp early. Still getting more information. We expect him to open the year on the injured list. So take Alzolay right out of the mix at the beginning of the year. You wanted him to be healthy, to have a full body of work, full season of work, hopefully see what he is really made of. I'm a big Alzolay fan, and he's already now behind the 8 ball. So, a Pineda move or somewhere along those lines makes more sense all of a sudden. Now, bullpen, right? No team in Major League Baseball, I don't care what you say, ever says we don't need bullpen help. Talked a lot about this on Locked On Cubs. Another under-the-radar guy that I think the Cubs need to go after now is Ryan Tepera. Old friend, familiar face, solid bullpen contributor on both sides of town last year. He was part of the Kimbrel deal that sent those two gentlemen over to the White Sox last year. 2.79 ERA combined, sub-1 whip in 65 appearances for both the Cubs and the White Sox. Closer look at Tepera's numbers from last year if you want to go really in-depth, show how good he really was on both sides of town. Ranked in the top 5% of the league in whiff percentage, XBA, XERA, X-slugging, XWOBA, and his strikeout percentage and chase rate were in the top 15%. So, those are phenomenal numbers for a great arm coming out of the pen. I here at Locked On have been enthralled with the idea of bringing Tepera back all of this offseason. This is not the first time you've heard me mention this. The Chafin, Tepera, Kimbrel combination at the back end of the Cubs bullpen last year had that group ranked third in all of baseball through the month of June. Third in all of baseball through the month of June. Ryan Tepera, big part of that. Last year, only with the Cubs, numbers with the Cubs only, not counting his Sox time, 50 strikeouts, only 12 walks in just 43 innings, sub-3 ERA, gave up only 22 hits. The guy was phenomenal. Again, especially with the Hoyer injury now, Alzolay shoulder tightness, that's rotation-wise. But again, these moves trickle down to see how the rest of the bullpen's going to shake out. Love to see the Wrigley Field comfortable Ryan Tepera back in Cubby Blue, help solidify the back end of that rotation a little bit. An under-the-radar move, someone that's probably not going to break the bank again. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw it happen, fingers crossed. Did you hear about some of the Cubs coaching changes over the weekend? And no, I don't mean the David Ross extension, but again, David, congrats. Awesome news. I'll discuss those here in a moment. Before we do, it's time to talk about Built Bar. I know you're tired of hearing about it, but you shouldn't be, because if you've tried it, you wouldn't be tired of it. They are delicious. All Built Bars covered in 100% real chocolate. They're better than a typical candy bar. Why? You do macronutrients, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Let's compare that to a normal candy bar, which is 240 some calories typically, 30 grams of sugar, which kills your insides and your immune system, and dozens of net carbs, plus the flavors, mint brownie, coconut almond, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious. New flavors coming out all the time. You'll never, ever get tired of what is offered. Do me a favor. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. You know the drill. Use promo code LOCK15 at Built.com to get 15% off your order. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they do. Check it out. I think you'll like it. More Locked On Cubs rolls right after this. Welcome back in. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Thank you again for making us your first listen each and every morning. We can't thank you enough. It honestly means the world to me. Being part of the Locked On family is one of the coolest experiences of my professional career. At Chicago Cubs PA on Twitter, at Locked On Cubs. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Fun content there. You can watch, I'll air quote, watch the show as you listen to me babble. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Little news nuggets. This is the best part. Cubs are back in camp. You get these little news tidbits, these nuggets. This is what's fun. David Ross extension, as we did a little special over the weekend, signed through 2024. Awesome move for the Cubs. Awesome move for David. Option for 2025. Good there. Like I kind of talked about back in December when I preached that we, as Cubs fans, wanted a David Ross extension. This deal was likely in place during the lockout. Wait to announce it. Good news coming out when they lift the lockout. That was awesome on Friday afternoon. Right guy for the job. And the beauty of it is now he's getting the tools he needs to win again. So really, I'm expecting the Cubs to turn some heads in a good way this year. Other coaching news. Mike Napoli is now the Cubs' first base coach. He moves into that role from his previous position of quality assurance coach. And Craig Driver is now the game strategy and catching coach for David Ross. Previously was the first base coach. So talked about the Cody Hoyer, Tommy John news. That stinks. Out for the year. Figured to be prominent bullpen piece this year. As David Ross said, anytime, and I quote, anytime you get that kind of news, you're upset. Outside of the pitcher he is, he's just a good guy in the clubhouse and the bullpen. Definitely, we're going to miss him greatly. Better to find out now than midway through the season, right? End quote, David. Yep, couldn't agree with you more. Ross also noted that the velocity drops that Hoyer dealt with last year in 2021 were probably likely due to the same UCL issues that he had this year that required the Tommy John surgery. So, Cody, best wishes. Get well soon. Glad you're getting the treatment and the care that you need now to move forward and put this behind you. And finally, what about the coolest piece of the new CBA that you probably haven't heard of? Check this out. Each team will make available English as a second language and Spanish as a second language courses at its expense, provided that at least one player on that club requests such a course on or before April 15th each year. How cool is that? How cool is that? I mean, something that should already have been in place, but I absolutely love it. Let's learn to speak the languages of our teammates and friends. It just makes too much sense. You got some time to kill on the road here and there. You got some time to kill during rain delays in the clubhouse, on the field. Let's speak each other's languages. I think that would go a long, long way, just in life in general, let alone in the baseball world. But I think that is so cool. Love to hear that that's part of the new CBA. Hey, get a Locked On Cubs podcast host get in on that at all? I don't know. Let me know. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Tuesday. Great to spend the morning with you. I love you guys. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, for that matter. Ask you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Have you checked out Locked On MLB? Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you download your favorite podcast, just like Locked On Cubs is. We're monitoring the free agent market. We're diving headfirst into Cactus League ball in Mesa, Arizona. And more Cubs, more tomorrow. Till then, adios.